Next on Life Focus.
You know, they cut your finger and some blood drops on the floor, and basically, you take an oath that you're devoting your life or giving your life to La Cosa Nostra. If you violate the oath, you pay for it with your life.
You never really leave the organized crime world and be totally safe. There's an old saying in the mob circles, the only way you quit the mob is in a coffin.
No matter how you try to say, some mob guys believe in God. Well, the devil believes in God.
Hello, I'm Dan Meyer. Welcome to Life Focus. In our society, the world of organized crime wages war against the entire fabric of our culture. Through illegal, immoral, and often very violent methods, members of organized crime maintain extremely lucrative businesses. Unfortunately, this underground lifestyle supports many crimes and creates serious problems, including illegal gambling. Today, you'll have the rare opportunity to meet a man whom, not very long ago, was an extremely powerful figure in this dangerous and secretive world. Mona Hanine reports.
I should either be dead or in prison for the rest of my life. And that's it. That's what I deserved. That's what I had earned in my life.
Michael Franzese was a high-ranking member of the La Cosa Nostra, or LCN, known to many as the mob.
His father had a very violent reputation, real hard-nosed, old-time mafia boss.
John Sonny Franzese, Michael's stepfather, was the feared enforcer of the Colombo crime family in New York, a family known for its greed, corruption, and violence.
You're around death all the time. It's a fact of the life. It's a violent life.
We had the Colombo family pretty well infiltrated.
In the early 70s, FBI agent Bernie Welch was assigned to track Michael Franzese and the other thugs that comprised the Colombo family.
It was a very small family, and they were involved in loan sharking mostly, gambling, prostitution.
Growing up in Roslyn, New York on Long Island, Michael was the oldest of Sonny and Tina Franzese's 4 children. As a child, he understood little about his father's dealings.
Michael worshipped Sonny Franzese and was always trying to please him. And I think that's probably what brought him into this life of crime, to try and please his father.
A powerful father, a Colombo family captain who ruled New York's underworld as part of everyday business.
It was just normal kind of in our house that, cops were the bad guys, and our family was good and wonderful and great. My dad was the leader.
Michael's father may have committed up to 25 different homicides, and very notorious, very much feared among organized crime circles in New York.
George Randolph worked for the FBI for nearly 35 years, spending most of this time investigating organized crime activities.
He hated anyone connected with the FBI because we were constantly doing surveillances outside his house when he was a kid.
See this house right here?
By Michael's own account, Welch was a legendary mob hunter who would go toe-to-toe with the toughest mob enforcers.
I think Michael knew that I was out in the street. I used to go out in the evenings and late afternoons, and I would go into their restaurants, and I would confront them. He says, Bernie, as soon as you finish talking to me, I got to go tell Sonny that I spoke to you. Sonny, when he would leave the house, he would many times hide in the back seat and lay on the floor and have his driver drive him around. The agents and cops would follow him, and thinking that Sonny wasn't in the car, maybe drop the surveillance, and then Sonny would pop up in Brooklyn somewhere at a social club. I mean, that was one of their tactics.
It was a tactic that eventually caught up with him. In 1970, Sonny was arrested and sentenced to 50 years in prison for masterminding a nationwide string of bank robberies.
What happened with his father was the judge, Mishler, who was a tough judge, banged him for everything that he got away with. All the homicides that Sonny was involved in, never proved, or he beat. Mishler knew what he was.
Michael was a sophomore in college when his father went to jail. He had hopes for earning a degree and pursuing a career. But his father's friends and his business associates had a different plan.
They had a powerful influence on me. They would tell him, what are you doing going to school? You know who your dad is, and you should be on the street.
Michael gave up his college plans and worked relentlessly to get Sonny out of jail. He picketed the FBI building every day for 6 months and frequently visited his father in jail.
I went to see him in Leavenworth, and I said, Dad, basically I don't want to go to school anymore. I said, I want to get involved with the league and help you out. He said, you can't quit now. We had this dream for you.
But despite his father's pleas, Michael left college and went to work for the Colombo crime family. On Halloween night, 1975, Michael officially committed his life to serving the mob.
They cut your finger and some blood drops on the floor, and basically, you take an oath that you're devoting your life or giving your life to La Cosa Nostra. If you violate the oath, you pay for it with your life.
Michael was 24 years old when he became a made man. That night, his new brother had told him what it really meant to be part of the La Cosa Nostra family.
Whatever we ask you to do, you do, without question. If your mom is sick and on her deathbed, and the family calls you to some service, you leave your mom's deathbed.
Michael Franzese's rapid rise to power in New York's Colombo crime family came because he was wildly successful in white-collar business scams. He commanded the kind of wealth and influence some people only dream about. But as a member of one of the most powerful organized crime families in the country, Michael was also wanted by the FBI.
But I had about 12 to 15 soldiers under me all the time, and they were made men.
Michael put together a group of very lucrative mob-controlled businesses that include car dealerships, wholesale gas and oil companies, movie productions, and sports gambling operations.
Michael Franzese was one of the largest earners in LCN history. There's some estimates that he made up to close to $1 billion.
Leading a lifestyle of luxury, power, and connections, there were few things money could not buy.
I had several cars. I had a jet plane, I had a helicopter, I had a home in Florida, I had a home in Los Angeles, and I had a pretty big home in Long Island.
Michael's underground network was so powerful that he won every court case against him. His numerous illegal money-making operations were well-financed and well-hidden.
We were, wholesalers, and we were responsible for collecting the tax from the state and the federal government and the local communities and paying it. And we devised a way to collect the tax and not pay it.
He had wholesale gasoline operations in 5 states. His company, Houston Holdings, stole millions of dollars each week from the government.
The federal tax at the time was 9 cents a gallon, and the state and local was about, 25, 26 cents a gallon. So you're looking at about 35 cents a gallon. At the height of our operation, we were doing 500 million gallons a month and not paying the taxes.
And Michael's illegal money-making scams would end up going across the entire country.
I got involved with Michael Franzese as a result of a case I instituted in Chicago involving sports agents.
Randolph was assigned to investigate the beating of Kathy Clements, a Chicago sports agent who was viciously attacked and left to die.
This was a young lady who was representing some college athletes, wanting to represent them in their NFL careers. I subsequently learned that it was connected to Norby Walters and Lloyd Bloom.
Norby Walters and Lloyd Bloom operated the New York City-based World Sports and Entertainment Agency, a business that was financed and enforced by Michael and Sonny Franzese.
Illegal gambling for the mob is tremendously lucrative, millions and millions of dollars.
Michael's business partners, Walters and Bloom, recruited and bribed elite college athletes. Young athletes risking their future careers broke NCAA rules and college scholarship eligibility by signing the sports agents' exclusive representation contracts and by taking large sums of cash and expensive cars.
And he'd get them in a room and he'd say, listen, you're not allowed to do this, but it's you and I in this room. Here's X amount of dollars. Nobody's ever going to know about it, but I need to protect myself. I have a piece of paper for you to sign. It's a contract. I know you can't sign it now because it'll ruin your eligibility, but look at the date. I post-dated it until after you graduate.
Organized crime can compromise people by giving them something and then holding that over their head later on, threatening them with exposure.
The inside information La Cosa Nostra bookmaker received gave him an important edge on betting in that game.
Let's say it's football. Maybe his hand is hurting a little bit more than they want to reveal, and he can't pass as much as he should be. That information gives you an edge in understanding the outcome of the game.
Chris Carter was only a sophomore at Ohio State. He took a substantial amount of money from Bloom and Walters.
Randolph also discovered that star athletes weren't the only high-profile victims of Norby Walters and Lloyd Bloom.
That became part of our investigation, the extortion attempts against Dionne Warwick and people like Michael Jackson, the New Edition.
The power and influence of La Cosa Nostra was at its peak. Money-making for the mob, especially for Michael Franzese and the Colombo crime family, had no boundaries and no rules.
New York had more organized crime than any place else in the country.
Jim Kostler was the coordinating supervisor for New York City's FBI. By the early 80s, organized crime in the city was out of control. Kostler was in charge of the task force to bring down the LCN and the billion-dollar empire of Michael Franzese and his Colombo crime family.
We had the number one priority and number one commitment within the office to solving the organized crime problem.
It took nearly a year for FBI agents to gather enough evidence to prosecute the notorious Long Island Don. During this time, Michael left New York to produce his own movie in Florida.
I didn't really know what was going on back east, but from what I understood afterwards, there was this huge task force that they put together with multi-agency task force that was investigating me for months and months and months.
But it wasn't law enforcers that would catch up with Michael. It was someone else that stopped him dead in his tracks.
At 34 years old, Michael Franzese captured national media attention when he was named the youngest mob boss on Fortune magazine's list of the wealthiest and most powerful crime bosses in America. He had successfully escaped numerous government indictments, winning every court case mounted against him. It seemed that nothing could stop the yuppie Don, as they called him in the streets. But Michael could not outsmart some men who were determined to put an end to the Colombo crime family. Mona Hanine concludes our program.
I'm sitting by the pool one day at the hotel that I had everybody staying at, and this beautiful young girl emerges from the pool and just really caught my attention.
In 1985, while the powerful mob boss Michael Franzese was producing Knights of the City in Miami Beach, his life was turned upside down by Camille Garcia and her innocent beauty.
I was not attracted to him at all. No. I thought he was nice. I thought he was handsome. I thought he just had a great personality, but there was zero attraction to him. None.
But Michael didn't give up. There was something different about her worth getting to know.
She told me she was a Christian. She would mention Jesus a lot in just a normal conversation, which was kind of weird for me at the time. But as time went on, I saw that this really has meaning in this girl's life.
I knew there was something different about him. Exactly what it was, I didn't know.
As I really got to care for her, things started to really intensify back east for me.
Intensified for Michael meant pending federal indictments that would cost him 20 to 30 years in jail.
At the time, he explained to me what racketeering was and tax evasion.
Michael won the Fed's fifth court case against him. With another victory under his belt, he now felt confident of his future.
Based upon my acquittal in that case, that's when I decided for sure that Camille and I were going to get married.
In January 1985, they tied the knot in Las Vegas. Soon after, partly because of Cammie's influence and Michael's increasing disillusionment with the mob, Michael turned to God for help.
I actually got on my knees and prayed at that point in time, and knew that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a Christian. I wanted Christ to come into my life.
But after only a few months of wedded bliss, the feds filed new indictments against the Colombo crime boss.
Rudy Giuliani, in a big racketeering case, had $10 million a week coming into my pocket, and I thought I was invincible. Until the day after, when I crashed and found myself in a little cell.
Michael pleaded guilty to several counts of racketeering in New York and Florida. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, $10 million in restitution, and $5 million in forfeiture of assets.
At that time, the $10 million in restitution that Michael Franzese had to pay was very significant.
Michael was transferred to Terminal Island Penitentiary in San Pedro, California, to start serving his 10-year sentence. Several months later, Michael had a visitor. George Randolph wanted to question him about his connection to Norby Walters and Lloyd Bloom.
I confronted Franzese and encouraged him that it would be in his best interest to cooperate because my case was going to be successful.
Linked to the beating of Kathy Clemens and to bribes and extortion plots against athletes and entertainers, Michael was under intense pressure. He reluctantly agreed to become a key witness for the government.
Michael Franzese ended up testifying in U.S. District Court in Chicago, and it was very stunning testimony. And the defense attorney just basically stopped his cross-examination. He asked Michael one question about, did you attend a meeting with the heads of the 5 families of the New York organized crime families? And Michael said, yes, he did.
You never feel right when you're known as a betrayer. You know, you betrayed the life. And that's why I fought so hard to betray just the life and not the people in the life.
Because of his cooperation, Michael was soon out on parole, but he violated his prison parole terms and was back in jail for 4 more years.
Just when I was leaving prison, a few months prior to that, I got a visit from the FBI. And long story short, they wanted me to get involved in this anti-gambling program that the leagues were putting on, Major League Baseball and the NBA, and I started to speak to athletes throughout the country.
In a dramatic change of events, Michael turned his life to God and now openly discusses his former life of crime and travels, frequently sharing stories about his past illegal gambling activities in the mob.
And I tell them I want just one of those 24 guys that were gambling money on a game in which they played.
Hired by the NCAA in 1995 as a speaker to warn students and professional athletes against the dangers of gambling, Michael has been very well received all over the country.
Teenagers have a problem gambling rate of 10 to 17%.
Today, nearly 20 years after he was first fined $10 million and sentenced to prison, Michael Franzese still owes the government a large sum of money.
I still owe. I pay him monthly, but you know, it is what it is, and you know, until or unless they find that money, then the money doesn't exist.
Some say his public statements exposing the underworld of illegal gambling activities puts him in jeopardy with the mob.
They can't be happy about him cooperating with the FBI, talking about the mob's influence in gambling, because that's their livelihood.
But Michael still has a very close relationship with his father, Colombo mobster Sonny Franzese, who is finally out of prison.
I wondered at some point in time if I'd ever be talking to my dad again because of the events that took place. And now he calls me every other day.
Once a cold-blooded killer nicknamed the Iceman, Sonny Franzese may be the reason government officials say that his son Michael is still alive.
Somebody's protecting him. It's either that or his father. His father's still alive, and out of respect to his father, they don't want to take him out. Now, once his father dies, I don't think Michael's going to be as safe as he thinks he is.
I believe they can't hurt me because I have God now, because I'm secure in where I'm going. And whatever happens at this point, so be it. But I never underestimate them.
And Michael, he told them exactly how he got made and who was present. I mean, you don't do that.
I don't think Michael Franzese could ever come back to New York and live a life of a former mobster in New York, because I think his life would be in jeopardy.
There's an old saying in the mob circles, the only way you quit the mob is in a coffin. Michael doesn't live that life anymore, but who knows when someone may decide to take some type of retribution.
Sometimes they might sit on something for 20 years, and all of a sudden somebody's going to get a bullet in the head. Somebody might go out and take a whack at and whack Michael out.
Everything we do on a daily basis is preparing for where we're going to spend eternity. And when I speak to people and give my testimony, I try to pound that home. I try to pound it home.
I respect him for what he's done. He's lived up to his word, encouraging kids not to get involved with crime or gambling or other activities that could destroy their lives.
Michael and Camille have overcome a turbulent history, but they say they found real meaning and truth in the Christian faith.
I am at peace with where I'm going when I leave this earth, and to me, that's the most important. That's what we live for in this life.
I look at his life and I just think, wow, Lord, you are awesome. It took a while. It took a while. I wish it could have been a little faster, but it was part of the process.
People don't play games in this business. They don't play games. All because the athletes took something for nothing.
Despite the risks of speaking publicly or even interviewing with us, Michael says that no matter what happens to him, he's sure of a better life to come.
I understand what proof means. I understand what evidence is. I've experienced it so much. And I am, without a doubt, convinced, beyond any reasonable doubt, that the Bible is the Word of God. And if it is, and Christ is the way to heaven, what are you waiting for? You know, what we intended for bad, God intends for good. And I think He's used everything that has happened to me in that regard. And if God can reach into my heart and save somebody like me, then He'll do that for anybody.
Michael Franzese has stayed in touch with George Randolph, who aided in hunting him down. Randolph says that Michael is a changed man and now supports his new mission. Michael's new life consists of traveling to colleges and universities, sharing his story. There is no doubt that his life is at risk. But if you ask Michael, now known as the born-again Don, do you regret your decision? He would adamantly say that his Christian faith is well worth it. That's all for today's edition of Life Focus. From everyone here, thanks for watching. I'm Dan Meyer, and we'll see you next time.
He's the one that revoked Sonny, Jimmy Stein. He was coming out of court one day, and Michael and two of his bodyguards were across the street, and Jim saw me and another agent, and they were like following him to his car in the parking lot. And Jim said to me, "Bernie, do me a favor, you walk with me. Michael's over there with two of these guys, and I think they're up to no good." So I did. We walked him to his car, and they saw us, and they just disappeared. But I think they might have grabbed Stein when he was going into his car and worked him over.
More information about this program can be found online at www.lifefocus.tv. The title of today's program is on the screen. Pricing and ordering information for a DVD copy of this program are available on our website, www.lifefocus.tv, or by phone at 1-877-908-LIFE. That's 1-877-908-5433.